Cale Makar is arguably the best defender in the NHL today. Norris Trophy winner last season, 86 points. But is he just getting started? Hey hockey fans, welcome back. Welcome in if this is your first time to the channel. I'm Josh. This is the Hockey Flow, and today it's Saturday, September 17th, 2022. Welcome back again, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Cale Makar, probably my favorite defender in the NHL, and my goodness, did he have an excellent season last year. Doing a little research in the numbers, you know we love to do that here at the Hockey Flow, and I'll tell you what, I didn't realize how close to history Cale Makar was last season. So you know what that means, right? We got another question of the day for you. That's right. Will Cale Makar, will he score 100 plus points this coming season? I thought it'd be fun to look back at Cale Makar's career so far. We're going to focus on last season in particular. Thanks to Jfresh Hockey, hockeyreference.com, and Natural Stat Trick Hockey. We're going to take a look into the stats, into the numbers. Then we're going to take a look at the history, because I'm a historian after all, and see where this 100-point defender season potentially stacks up in the history of the NHL. And then last but not least, we got to check out his supporting cast moving into this year. We got to see how the Avs are going to do, see what that team looks like moving into this year, because if he's going to score 100-plus points, his teammates are going to have to score as well. So stick around for that. If you do enjoy the content, take a moment, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Helps us out a ton. We're just getting started. We got a regular season ahead of us, and you never want to miss a video. Never know what we're going to do for you. So let's get into it. Like I said, we got to start out with Makar to this point. So we're going to look at Cale Makar's career. It's a short one so far, but my goodness, has it been illustrious. So started back in 2019-2020. That was his first full regular season. Did have a cup of tea in the playoffs the season before. Moved on into 2020-2021. And then last season, the Norris Trophy winning season. Absolutely fantastic, absolutely amazing. We see that player card. Big thank you to Jfresh Hockey on these puppies. We see a ton of blue. Blue is good, red is bad, and we only see a couple spots of red on this entire player card. That is absolutely fantastic, and you know why that is? Because he had an excellent season last year. You don't win the Norris Trophy for nothing. He played 77 games, scored 28 goals, oh so close to that 30 mark, and did score 58 assists for a total of 86 points. That shooting percentage creeped up a little bit. We'd love to see that. And we have a new stat here for you guys, shots on net. So this is provided from Natural Stat Trick. They do provide some excellent stats, some different ones that we're not used to seeing on here, but shots on net essentially takes into account all of his shots on net, whether they were goals or not. So we're getting rid of the ones that he missed the net, because I felt like that's a stat that really does speak. If he's getting the puck on net, how often is he getting the puck actually on net? So we did pull that stat as well. But let's take a look at the player card. We see 100% WAR, and I know detractors of WAR are going to say there's going to be a big part of that was part of him being on a great team, right? Well, not so much. Cale Makar is probably, not probably, he is. He's a linchpin on that team, and he was a driving force for that team. He is absolutely one of the main reasons that team was so good, and that team won the Stanley Cup Finals. So that 100% WAR, that means he is the best of the best of the best. I think it lines up beautifully, and his stats do also support that, absolutely. So 1,000%, 100% WAR is what we're looking at, and I believe it. And we see the projection as well. We'll get to that in just a moment. But one thing I do like to see, and we always like to call out when we look at the stats moving season to season, is we see some nice progression. Now, unfortunately, Cale Makar has had to deal with the COVID seasons to start his career, so we don't have a full slate of games yet. Last season, we got real close, 77, so, 5 games. If he's able to stay healthy for the entire season, that could have a nice impact, right? Keep in mind, we're just trying to answer the question, will Cale Makar score 100 points this season? He got awfully close, 86. If we had 5 games in there and he goes on an excellent tear, All right, 100 points, maybe he's got it. But again, we like to see that he progressed. He progressed in every category. Sure, goals and assists did dip a tiny bit from year 1 to year 2, but again, he played in 13 less games. So in reality, those numbers actually stayed very similar, if not increased just a little bit. The shooting percentage did dip a little bit in his second year, but again, we're going to chalk it up to the COVID year. Last year, it really came around. More experience, he's getting more confident on the ice, and we could see it, right? Look at that play he made against Chicago to start the year last season. My goodness, that's going to be on highlight reels for probably forever. It was a fantastic goal. But his shooting percentage in general also did climb, and we see that those shots on net, that category, we see a giant spike. So even if you prorated those 44 games for the season before to a full season, it's not coming close to the 240, right? So that tells me that he was getting more confident in his shot, in his game, and he was putting more pucks on the net. It also is a product of that Avalanche team, right? Bednar and the team trusting him more, getting him in more dangerous spots, allowing him to do what he does, because my goodness, when he's humming, it's a thing of beauty. But that shots on net, I think that is somewhere that I expect that number to go up a little more, right? We'll get into the Avs team as a whole, but I fully expect him to keep embracing and keep growing on the offensive side of his game, while his defensive side of the game continues to grow as well. It's awfully scary, especially as an Oilers fan. We got to go against Cale Makar to get to the cup, and last season, my goodness, the Avs were the barrier for us, and that play he had on McDavid last season was just a thing of beauty. But I digress. Let's get back to the stats. Again, it's great to see the progression, right? But we will need to see these numbers continue to progress if he's going to get that 100-point mark, right? Whether or not it be games played, we need to see increase. Maybe we see an increase in the goals, but I really do expect to see a little more of a spike in the assists. As you'll see with some of our other candidates, quote unquote, for this 100-point mark, the assists are a spot that Makar did lack a little bit. 58, nothing to slouch about. That's fantastic, but I do expect that we could see those numbers climb a little bit more. And again, the projection, it lines up. We love to see it. The projection comes out at 100%. If anything, it grades him out a little low on the defensive side, but my goodness, he graded out so wonderful last season. I kind of understand it. Now, at the same time, though, 100% WAR will absolutely take it. So this is Cale Makar's career up until this point. The numbers don't give us any signs to worry, right? Everything points to positive progression, but is this a historic feat? That's the other thing we have to talk about. So I'm a historian, so here's the history part of it. So this is actually a really neat stat. Only 5 players in NHL history, or 5 defensemen in NHL history, have scored 100+ points in a season in NHL history. Only 5 players. Now, it's been done, I think that's 14 different times there. We see the great Bobby Orr and the great Paul Coffey on there a whole lot, but we also see Brian Leetch, Al McGinnis, and Dennis Potvin. So this is not a common feat, right? Like, we're getting a little spoiled here. We had Roman Josi, who we're going to talk about in a moment, and Cale Makar, but this isn't something that's very common. The last time it actually happened was 1991, 1992. So we're looking at 30 years, right? Something that hasn't happened in 30 years. So this is kind of a big deal. Like I said, only been done by 5 players, hasn't been done since 1991-92. Now, this is an interesting call out. This is something that the stats kind of spoke to me when we're looking at it, right? We like to look at the numbers and see what they tell us. And Paul Coffey stood out. As an Oilers fan, I'm a big Paul Coffey fan, absolutely. But if you look at his numbers and the points total in particular, in 5 of 7 seasons from 83 to 1990, he had 5 seasons of 100+ points. 126, 121, 138, 113, 103. And it got me thinking, are we about to see a run like this for Cale Makar? Now, Roman Josi is an excellent player also, right? And he's going to be 32, or he was 32, going to be 32 this season. So he's a little on the older side of the spectrum, whereas Cale Makar is a young buck, right? We look at this, only 23 years old. So are we about to see Cale Makar go on another historic run, something like Paul Coffey did during the 80s, where we see consecutive seasons of 100+ points? I absolutely think it could be done. Now, others have also gotten close, right? We just talked about Roman Josi, and we're going to talk about him a little bit more, but we also see 95 to 99 points by a defenseman in NHL history. We see others got close, right? Roman Josi just last season was in that battle for the Norris Trophy, but then we go back again to 1992, 1993 with Phil Housley. Then we're looking at Ray Bourque, and then there he is, Paul Coffey again. That was one of the seasons that was the season just before the big run of 5 of 7 seasons, and that is also a neat indication because Cale Makar scored 86 points last season, nice increase from the year before. Paul Coffey had a similar uptick from one season to the next, and then he popped off and had a big run of consecutive seasons of over 100 points. Now, we do want to talk about Roman Josi. I'm a little surprised that the player card for him last season grades out this low. Looks like defensively he just struggled a little bit, but this is the analytics side, right? The eye test, Roman Josi did look strong defensively at times when I did watch the Nashville Predators, but of course there were some moments where he did give up some things, but same token, that's not exactly the strong suit of his game. He's an offensive defenseman in that regard, but I do think Roman Josi is an excellent defender, and he came so close. 96 points, just 4 shy. So this video honestly could be Cale Makar and Roman Josi. One of these two I think are going to do it, if not both. 96 points for Roman Josi. But that's the history. So we've walked through Cale Makar's history. Now we've walked through the actual history of it, and we can see that this is going to be a big deal when it happens, right? But now we got to look at the Avalanche. The Colorado Avalanche, they're getting ready to try to repeat as Stanley Cup champions. They were absolutely fantastic last season. Big shout out to Jfresh Hockey on the team cards here, and we see lots of blue, not a lot of red, and that's exactly what we expect to see because the Avalanche won the Stanley Cup and they were great all season. They had a rough start to the year for their standards, but overall they rebounded beautifully, and then you go on to win the Cup, so the rest is history. Now, moving into this season, they did lose Nazem Kadri and Andrei Burakovsky. Those are our two subtractions. Andrei goes over to Seattle and Nazem joins Calgary. Battle of Alberta just got a little better this season. Absolutely. Bring it on, Flames. Let's go, Oilers. But those are the two big subtractions. If we look at the roster here, big shout out to Daily Faceoff for the lineups, we still see Devin Tays is there. And I think that's a really important thing to bring up because Devin Tays is Cale Makar's partner in crime on the blue line. He does the defensive dirty work. Don't get me wrong, Cale Makar is no slouch defensively, but Devin Tays allows Cale Makar to do so much. And Cale Makar is really the quarterback of this team in so many ways. I know Nathan MacKinnon has been the quarterback on the power play for so long, but Cale Makar really started to take over that role and run the point, and we do see it in his numbers if we go back with the entry numbers, possession 98 percentile. That's fantastic. So Cale Makar, watching him start back at their own net and then rush forward is just a thing of beauty. And then they get into the power play, and him and MacKinnon like to alternate up top, passing the puck back and forth, trying to find the wings over there for those one-timers. The Avalanche have a great system. The Avalanche are a very, very solid team. But if we look at the Avalanche team, look at what this team's going to look like moving into this season, if Cale Makar is going to score 100-plus points, we're going to need to see the goals either stay the same or increase, or then we're going to need to see the assists either increase or stay the same. And I tell you what, the assists, I think, is where we're going to see the increase at because this team is loaded again. The big thing is going to be staying healthy, right? No matter what, we got to put that asterisk. This is all if everyone stays healthy. But with Devin Tays still his partner in crime, this team is still loaded. Nate MacKinnon, Val Nichushkin, Mikko Rantanen, Gabriel Landeskog, Alex Newhook, Arturi Lehkonen, Evan Rodriguez, JT Comfort. The list goes on and on. This team is stacked, except in the Tendy spot. I know the Avalanche are very, very, very confident in Georgiev being their starter, and Francois was solid last year in the playoffs as well, but the history isn't really there to support that just yet. For me to feel confident in their Tendy spot, I would like to see a little more history, a little more production out of one of these Tendys. So this could be actually a good thing for Cale Makar for his point total. If the Avalanche are giving up more goals, if the Tendy spot's a little more leaky, then maybe Cale Makar in that offense is going to be expected to score more goals. Maybe Jared Bednar turns it up another notch and Cale Makar gets to put up even more points. So I do want to keep my eye on that Tendy situation and the defense. If they start letting in more goals, are the Avalanche going to be pressed to score more? Absolutely. And then you look at the roster again. We listed off Evan Rodriguez. What a steal. He had an excellent first half of the season, fell off in the second half, but was still fantastic, still worth more than the 1 year, $2 million deal that he ended up getting. So keep your eyes on him, and also keep your eyes on Alex Newhook. We did a video on him, potential breakout candidate along with a couple of others, and I believe it. Alex Newhook has a lot of talent. I think he's going to have a big season this year, so keep a lookout on him. And also, that fourth line, my goodness. I know Cogliano isn't necessarily known for his goal scoring, but he did score some important goals last season for them on that playoff run. Ben Myers, keep your eyes on Ben Myers. And Darren Helm, another veteran presence who ceases to amaze me. He always seems to come up in some important spots. So this team is loaded. I think they're going to be a tough out again this year, but I think that bodes well for Cale Makar and his quest for 100 points. So we've gone through Cale Makar, we've gone through the history, and we've gone through the Colorado Avalanche, all to answer our question of the day. So with that in mind, will Cale Makar score 100-plus points this season? Yes, he will. I think the numbers point to his continued progression. I think his point total is just going to keep going up and up. I really do think we're about to see a big historic run, not something since the great Paul Coffey, where we see consecutive 100-point seasons. You know what? We're also going to see Roman Josi do it as well. I think we're going to have 2 defensemen this season score 100-plus points. But that's going to do it for the video today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you've made it this far and you're not subscribed, I would really appreciate it. Helps us out a ton. But what do you guys think? Is Cale Makar going to score the 100 points? Is Roman Josi? Let me know in the comments. Smash that like button. I appreciate you guys. Until tomorrow, cheers.